Hi gymnasts, Anna Kojak here, your mental toughness coach for gymnastics. I'm coming to you with a topic that I think will really help you, especially if you are a nervous gymnast or one who goes to competition and just falls apart. Okay, so if that's you, listen up. If that's not you, this might not help, so you don't have to watch it, but you can watch anyway. But I do want to say I give you a lot of tips and tricks, and what works for one gymnast might not work for another one. So I know Simone Biles has said before that if she starts to feel fear creeping in, she just kind of shuts it down and quickly goes and does the skill again because she doesn't want to let that have control over her. Now, I know that wouldn't work for me. I know that when I start to feel fear, then I start to block immediately, and then I can't do the skill, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. So her technique does not work for me, and I'm sure vice versa. So you have to figure out as a gymnast, you take these tips, you take these tricks, and you try them on for size. You see what fits. What doesn't fit, you don't use. But what fits, you use, and you incorporate that into your mental routine. Okay? So today, my tip is this. And I'm going to go against a lot of coaches' recommendations, a lot of sports psychology experts' recommendations, but this is what I believe is very helpful for those nervous gymnasts or the ones who just fall apart at meets. When you go to competition, when you go to your meet, most people tell you, think of it as just practice. It's just another routine. Have you heard that before? It's just another routine. You have to, be a robot and just go through the motions and do your routine. Okay, I want to say this. It is not just another routine. It is a routine that is in a strange environment with people you don't know, with lots of nerves and pressure. It is different. Competition is not the same as practice. And maybe for some athletes that works. They can think about it that way and they can control their nerves and they can go to their competition and they can do really well and they're like, yeah, that was just like practice. Well, that did not work for me, and I bet there are a lot of you who don't feel that way either. And I'm speaking specifically to those nervous gymnasts out there who just really almost, I don't want to say dread competition, but maybe that the nerves and the feeling of it is just very overwhelming, and it can make you just not love to compete. Okay, or you like to compete but you just fall apart and you get frustrated. Okay, so this is what I suggest for those of the gymnasts who fit this criteria that I'm talking about. When you go to a meet, expect that it's going to feel different. A meet is, in my opinion, is not practice. It is going to feel different. So you are going to get to your meet. Not only are you most likely nervous, you're going to see people you don't know in the crowd. Nowadays, it might be a little different. Maybe there are no spectators, but that feels different too, right? It's just different. Okay, so whatever it is, it's going to feel different. And then you're going to get on the equipment, which is in a different gym, probably a strange gym, maybe one that you don't go to often. Maybe you've competed there before, but unless you're in your home gym, it's going to feel different. You're going to get on this equipment, and it's going to feel strange. I remember I would go to meets, and I'd get on the beam, and it was like hard as a rock. And the one we had in our gym was like cushiony and soft. And I'd be like, oh, this is hard, and it hurts. It's like you do your jumps and you land and you're like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Or I don't have that spring. Or floor. My gosh, I've been to meets where like the floor was so springy that I just, you have the adrenaline from your meet and you go do your tumbling pass and you're out of bounds or you're on your butt like somewhere like 10 feet away because you fell. You went flying up in the air and you just couldn't control all that extra spring. Or I know when I was growing up, they've probably changed it now, but I happen to have an extra long runway for vault in my gym. And I would go pretty far back. I would take an extra running, hurdle and leap and start before I would start actually running. And so when I would get to meets where they had a regulation runway that was exactly the length and not any longer, then I would feel so messed up because I was used to taking that extra running start. And so then all of a sudden the runway would feel short to me, and then that would throw off my entire run in my vault, and so that was hard. And then bars, I don't know what it was, but even though the setting was always the same way, I'd make sure my coach did it right, bars never felt the same. I don't know what it was, just never felt the same. And I would swear the setting was wrong, and it wasn't. It just didn't feel the same. So you're going to go into meets and that's what's going to happen. The equipment is going to feel strange to you. And if you're not proactive about this mentally, then you're going to get up for your practice on the equipment and you're going to start doing it and you're going to go, this feels really weird. This is off. Oh my gosh, maybe I'm having an off day, or this is strange, or oh, what's going on? And then you start to flip out. You freak out and your nerves get the best of you, and then you're a mess. And then that's it. You like ruin your entire meet because of that. So instead, I want you to go to your meet with the expectation, one, that it's going to feel different. I'm going to a meet, it's going to feel different than practice. It is different. And two, the equipment is going to feel weird too. So what do I need to do? So you're going to think to yourself, like when you get up to practice to warm up on the equipment, you're going to feel it out. If you're on beam and it's extra hard, maybe you have to bend your knees a little extra when you land from your leaps and your jumps. Maybe when you do your back handspring, maybe you have to shift your hand placement a little bit. Maybe it doesn't feel the same as your gym. Maybe there's just something off about the beam. So you might have to make these adjustments, and you do that during your warm-up. And I'm not trying to like throw all this extra stuff at you, but I'm saying you make these slight modifications that feel better to you, but you go in with the expectation that this equipment is going to feel weird. It's going to feel different. Let me see what I can do to just make myself feel a little more comfortable. And what that does is it puts you in a state of control. You're proactive. You're figuring out, okay, what can I do to fix this or to change this or to make this feel better? And so you're in a very different mindset than like a victim mindset when you go up there and you're like, oh no, this feels different. What am I going to do? Oh my gosh, I'm going to mess up at this meet. And oh no, it's going to be another frustrating meet. And, and then you're in this victim mindset and you go down this negative spiral and it goes really quickly in that negative place. Okay, so I want you to have the opposite mindset. When you get to floor, if it's extra springy, it's hard to change that. You just push off a little less. Okay, that's really hard. I mean, and especially if the floor is not springy and you've got to get up. But you got to make those adjustments. But you have to ahead of time know, like, okay, this is going to feel different. And then, if your routine doesn't go as well as planned, even when you're making these adjustments, you have to know, okay, well, this is not the equipment I practice on. It's going to feel different. Olympians, when they go to the Olympics, they have a couple of days to warm up on the equipment. It's not like they get there an hour before their competition and then they're competing. Like they have days to adjust to the equipment. So they are, making those slight adjustments and doing what they have to make it feel better for them. But you don't get to do that. You literally go up to your warm up and then you're doing your routine. And so there's very little time for you to adjust. Your body doesn't have that capability to adjust. It doesn't have that time. Okay. I want to tell you a story. I think it was the 2000 Olympics. And I think I have my facts straight. If some are off, just forgive me, but you'll get the gist of what I'm saying. So I think it was the individual all-around finals in the 2000 Olympics. This was Sydney, Australia. And for two of the rotations, well, for vault, but two different groups of athletes that came through it, the vault was set at the wrong height. So normally it's, 25 centimeters, 35 centimeters. I don't know what the height is. It was 5 centimeters too low. So what happened is for those two rotations of those gymnasts that went for the first two groups, they messed up their vault like crazy. Someone got injured. Most of them fell. I remember watching going, like, what is going on with these gymnasts? Like, they're in the running, like some of them were in the running for like individual gold, and I was seeing them stumble on vault, and I'm like, this is strange, but they were all doing it. It was so strange to watch. If you actually go back and look at the film, it's weird, and even the commentators were like, whoa, what is going on? So finally, a gymnast realized that something was off, said something, the judges checked it out, the officials went and put it to the correct height. And they said to the gymnast that had already competed and who had fallen or just gotten low scores on vault, if you already competed in these first two rounds, you can go back and do your vault again. And then we'll count that score as your new score. But what happened is those gymnasts who had been on those first two rotations of vault, they had that vault that was so bad, and they were so like taken back by like, oh my gosh, like what is going on, and I must be having a bad day, or this is a bad meet, or this is not my time to shine, and what is going on? And I and they started to flip out where the rotations or the events that they had after vault, most of them ended up messing those up too, even though the equipment was the same, the settings were correct. A lot of them ended up falling on those events or messing up on them because their mindset was in such a negative downward spiral that they let that affect the rest of their events. So when they offered them the chance to come back involved, for a lot of them, they were no longer in the running for an Olympic medal, an all-around medal, because they had already botched up the rest of their events. And that is an example of how one event that felt different to them, and obviously in this case, it was the wrong setting. And so that's just something that never happens, right? But the same thing could happen to you, where you could go on your first event at a meet and it feels off to you and it feels wrong, and then you let that carry through to all the other events. So that's why I am suggesting to you that you are proactive and in control, and you know in your mind, okay, this is going to feel different. What can I do to make some adjustments so it feels better for me in this moment? That way you are in control. Like I said, you are controlling the controllables, and you're in a mindset of empowerment and not of a victim and, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Okay, so I want you to use that tip. If you are a nervous gymnast, if you go to meets and you just fall apart, this is going to help you. It really, really will. It's going to shift your mindset. It's going to help you have a better meet. I'm not saying you're going to do amazing on every single event just because you're thinking this. I mean, equipment is different and it feels different. And again, you don't have that time to warm up on it properly for your body to adjust. So maybe your meet scores are never going to be you're never going to compete as well as you practice, but that's okay because you can get better at that. You can work on these strategies and find new ways to get better in meets. But you have to start somewhere. Okay, so this is a strategy. Try it on for size. If it fits, keep using it. If it doesn't, ignore it. Don't do it. But I hope that this is something else that you can add to your mental toolbox for you to draw from when you need it in competition. All right, have a good day, guys, and I will see you soon.